Hey, welcome to Living in Provo, Utah. I'm Scott Walters of Best USA Realty. On this channel, we talk about everything about what it's like to live in Provo, Utah and the Utah Valley and surrounding areas. Today, specifically, I'll be talking about the city of American Fork, Utah. It's probably 20 minutes or so to the north of Provo, Utah. It's a beautiful city. I'm going to be talking about 5 pros and 5 cons of living in American Fork, Utah. And if you listen to the end, I'll make sure to throw in a couple bonus pros about what it's like living in this beautiful city. Hey again, my name's Scott Walters, Best USA Realty. I've had the pleasure of helping people buy and sell properties and finance properties in Utah Valley since 1993, and I'd love to help you. So if you're interested in moving to Provo, Utah or the surrounding areas, then reach out to me. Give me a call, send me a text message. We can set up a Zoom call, whatever you need, so I can give you all the information that you need when it comes to relocating to Utah Valley and Provo City and all the surrounding areas. So what I want you to do is I want you to like this video, subscribe to my channel, make sure you click on that notification bell so that you get notified every time that I drop another video about living in Provo, Utah, making weekly videos about all the cities from Lehi to the north, Vineyard in the middle to Santaquin on the south, all the cities in between. So with that, let's talk about American Fork, Utah, pros and cons. All right, let's talk pro number 1 for American Fork, Utah. Pro number 1 for me is shopping. American Fork has really grown up in the shopping department because it's so centrally located to a lot of the northern Utah County cities. All the big retailers and chains have come in to basically all of the exits at American Fork and built their stores. So there are 3 main exits off of I-15. I-15 is the main north-south corridor running right through Utah Valley, and so it has 3 main exits. The 500 East exit, that's the one that's been there, forever, and they've got quite a few chain stores that are just right off of that exit. Lots of restaurants, title companies, mortgage offices, doctor's offices, dentist offices, just all the other chain stores you can think of along that exit. The next main exit is the Pioneer Crossing exit. If you get off, if you're coming from the south, as if you're heading north towards Salt Lake. So if you're coming from the south and you're going north, when you get off on that exit and you turn right, that takes you right into American Fork and right at the heart of all the shopping. If you turn left, that puts you on to Pioneer Crossing Road, which is a road that cuts all the way through the south end of Lehi and takes you all the way out over to Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs. But right there at that main exit, at that Pioneer Crossing exit, you've got all the stores you could think of. You've got Target, Home Depot, Walmart, Supercenter. You have a Cinemark Theater. You've got Olive Garden, Chili's, Applebee's. You have a Ross Dress for Less, Deseret Book. I can't remember if I said Texas Roadhouse already. Buffalo Wild Wings, Costco Wholesale, just all the other different places that you can think of. Lots of car washes. Again, there's a Quick Quack car wash right there in that area. And just, dozens. Hobby Lobby. I mean, there's in Burlington, Coat Factory. I mean, there's just a Chick-fil-A. I'm just looking at the map here. But anyway, just tons and tons of shopping. So that's given a lot of opportunities. So if you go to the next exit, which is basically like the Lehi Main Street exit, if you exit there and turn left, well, you're right in Lehi. But if you turn right, then it brings you right back around into American Fork and just brings you around on the other side of all those shopping centers that I was just mentioning. So definitely one of the bonuses to American Fork is you don't really need to go anywhere else to get all your shopping done. If you want to go to the malls, then yeah, you're going to either go drive up, 30 miles up into the Salt Lake Valley and go to the malls there, or you're going to drive the 20 minutes down to Provo Orem, where there's 2 malls. You have the Provo Southtown Mall, and you also have the University Place Mall in Orem. So, you're not very far away from those opportunities. But overall, you really don't need to go anywhere. You've got all that you need right there in American Fork. Con number 1 is the fact that American Fork's open space is disappearing. American Fork is not one of the bigger towns. It's about 33,000 people or so. But where it's located, and it's completely surrounded by, it's surrounded by Highland and Cedar Hills and Pleasant Grove. Because of that, I guess it's a little bit landlocked. So a lot of the open space is disappearing. It's disappearing with all the construction of new homes and of all the businesses and so forth. So if you're looking for an area that's more rural or agricultural based, then American Fork City is not the place for you. but it's really centrally located for everything else. And there are some areas that do feel like you're right out in the country. There are still some open spaces, and of course you can get up into the canyons where you got all the space that you could ever want. But that's just one of my cons, is the fact that a lot of the beautiful open space is now getting eaten up by development. My next pro for American Fork is its proximity to American Fork Canyon. What a beautiful canyon, what a beautiful drive. One of the first things that you'll come to when you come up American Fork Canyon on your right-hand side or the south side of the road, that is if you're heading east, well, you're going to be heading east up into American Fork Canyon, is Timpanogos Cave. And that is it's a fun hike, but it's steep. It's a lot of switchbacks. It's a very steep hike up to the opening in the mouth of that cave, but it's a really fun and beautiful cave to go hike through. A great trip for anyone to check out. Anyway, so that's fun. But they also have reservoirs and campgrounds and picnic places you can go to that you can get up there. And of course, that's also where the Alpine Loop is basically the American Fork Road. So that's absolutely a scenic drive in the fall, where you've got beautiful fall colors. You've got the aspen trees that are all turning yellow. You have the maple trees that are turning their crimson, orange, and red colors. Just their bright, vibrant colors. Some of them have those yellow leaves as well. So it's really a stunning drive in the fall. But it's real beautiful any time of the year. But the summer, where it's just green and gorgeous, you can get to Sundance Ski Resort from American Fork Canyon. Now, Sundance is not just a ski resort for the wintertime, and it's a fun place to ski. I've been skiing there a lot of times, but they also have a lot of summer activities. You can actually take your mountain bike, pay for a ski lift pass, and you can ride this ski lift up with your mountain bike and ride down on all the trails. So that's a lot of fun to do. And then they have fall rides where you can just ride and check out the fall colors up there. They also have a Halloween ride where you can go, and they have actors and people that are hiding in the trees that try to scare you. It's not too scary because you're on the lift and they're way down below you. But anyway, it's kind of cool. And then they also have a summer outdoor theater series, plays where you go and watch plays. The last one we went there was last year, and it was Footloose. So that was a lot of fun to watch. So we've been there to other plays. You can get a dinner beforehand and have dinner in the trees and the pines, and so it's just a lot of fun things, and it's just right there close to American Fork and American Fork Canyon. If you come all the way out the other side of American Fork Canyon, well, that drops you into Provo Canyon, where you've got access to Bridalveil Falls, which is one of the most beautiful falls in all of Utah. You've got the Provo River Trail. You got parks along there. Also up there right next to the Sundance Ski Resort is Stewart Falls. That's a challenging hike, hiking up and over the hill, but boy, you're treated with a wonderful reward of a beautiful waterfall coming down out of these high alpine mountains on the backside of Mount Timpanogos. So, to me, American Fork Canyon is really one of the jewels of American Fork and one of the great pros of being there. And then, of course, where you're in American Fork, you're right next to Pleasant Grove. They have two really nice canyons right there that they're not canyons that you can drive up in, but you can hike. They've got Grove Creek Canyon and also Battle Creek Canyon, which has another beautiful waterfall that you can hike to. So anyway, with American Fork, the pro is you're close to American Fork Canyon and the other canyons for recreation. I forgot to mention, too, just right up that Provo Canyon is Deer Creek Reservoir. So, technically you can get to Deer Creek Reservoir by going up and through the American Fork Canyon. Probably easier if you went down around through Provo and up Provo Canyon, but that's a fun reservoir to go recreate on. So there's my pro number one. My next con is walkability, and this kind of holds true for almost all the cities along the Wasatch Front and in Utah Valley. They were built on a grid system where you have an access of north and south and east and west, and everything's based off of that. Everything, to the north is 100 north, 200 north, 300 north, and so on. And same with the south, 100 south, 200 south, and the same with the west. And it just goes out that way. And everything was very spread out. It's not as compact as some other areas of the country. Because of that, it's not super walkable. So you're probably not going to be walking to the grocery store. Would not be super convenient to walk there and carry your groceries back to your home, because you're going to be probably a few miles from the grocery store. Now, certainly there are some homes that are right in that old shopping district that I have talked about as being one of the pros. And theoretically, you could walk to the store from there. But generally speaking, for the most part, of American Fork. It's just really not that walkable. However, there are quite a few UTA bus stops through American Fork, especially through the State Street corridor of American Fork. That's kind of the main road that runs through the heart of American Fork, and they have a lot of bus route stops there that can also take you right over to the train tracks in Lehigh, just across the way there from Pioneer Crossing. So you do at least have that, and if you had to walk to that, you could definitely walk to that. But anyway, that is my next con, is the fact that it's not the most walkable city. My next pro is the fact that American Fork is close to everything. Like I said, it's like 38 miles to downtown Salt Lake City from American Fork. You're probably 20 minutes or less to the point of the mountain, what's called the point of the mountain, which is the point between Utah County and the Salt Lake County lines. You go up a hill, and once you come to the top of that hill, then you can look down into the Salt Lake Valley, and you drop down to the Salt Lake Valley. So then you've got Draper, Sandy, Murray, Midvale, South Salt Lake City. That's kind of the order that goes in. And so you're really close to Salt Lake City. So if you work in Salt Lake City, you're close. It's right there. It's very centrally located. But then if you want access to the rest of the Utah Valley and all the Utah Valley cities, well, then you're only about 15 minutes to the south is Orem, probably less to the first Orem exit. There's like 3 or 4 Orem exits, and that first Orem exit is probably 5 minutes from American Fork's 500 East exit. And then you've got the couple other exits after that. You've got the 800 North and then the University Parkway exit. That's where Utah Valley University is located, is right off that exit off of I-15. And that's probably, if you were going down to BYU, that's generally the route coming from American Fork that you would go. So you'd turn left there heading east towards the mountains. You'd pass Utah Valley University, go up the hill, come to the top of the hill. You'd be stopping right by the University Place Mall, and then you'd be dropping down into Provo and right into BYU's campus. So it's really close to Provo and all the activities and offerings that you have there. So definitely that's one of my pros, is the fact that where it's kind of in the north part of Utah County, it's really centrally located to pretty much everything in Utah Valley and Salt Lake Valley. Okay, so my next con is home prices have definitely risen in American Fork, and they can be a little bit higher there than maybe some of the other cities. I'm looking at the multiple listing service right now. There's quite a few homes that are over $1 million in American Fork, and then a whole bunch of them, the 800, 700, 600,000. So that's kind of the main price range you're looking at. Really, between 500 and 600,000 is really that's what it's going to take to buy yourself a 3,000 to 3,500 square foot home in American Fork. Make a comment down below if you think that's affordable. If you don't think it's affordable, let me know. Well, that's kind of the price range that you're looking at in American Fork. So just kind of one of the sad things is affordability has decreased a little bit over the years, but that's kind of true for most of the cities along the Wasatch Front. But I think American Fork, the prices may be a little bit higher than other places. But that's because it's a great place to live. Okay, so my next pro has to be jobs, and the fact that American Fork is so close to Lehigh Silicon Slopes, where they have just a ton of technology jobs. Probably the biggest name tech company up there is Adobe, but there's a bunch of other tech companies, and you can check out my video on the pros and cons of living in Lehigh, because I cover more of the tech companies that are in and around the Silicon Slopes. But American Fork, like I say, maybe 10 minutes to the Silicon Slopes exit, where there's just a ton of high-tech jobs. But also then you're only one exit to the south to Pleasant Grove, where there's also a whole bunch of other job opportunities. There's the Essential Oils Company, doTERRA. doTERRA's headquarters right there at the very next south exit from American Fork. That's where they have a very large campus, employ a lot of people right there. Plus there's a whole bunch of other office buildings right in that area, so there's a lot of other great job opportunities. And so that's one of the great things about American Fork. You're very well located to all these different job opportunities. And of course, if you work at Utah Valley, or if you work at Brigham Young, you're really close to those job opportunities. And if your job happens to be up in Salt Lake, well, you're just a few minutes over the point of the mountain, and you're in the Salt Lake Valley. So that's one of my pros, is the fact that American Fork is very close to a lot of fantastic job opportunities. All right, my next con is the fact that the roads are pretty darn busy. American Fork has become very busy, especially because the exits getting off American Fork are also the exits that take you to get out to Lehigh and Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs. So sometimes you have a lot of traffic coming from those cities that are coming in to shop at American Fork, and so it can be those roads can be very busy. Again, there's three main exits getting off of American Fork from going on the I-15, and then there's really only the one main road that goes right through the heart of American Fork, and that's the State Street Road. They also have another road. It turns into the Alpine. Is it called the Alpine Highway? I'm forgetting. Anyway, it's kind of the main road that takes you out to Highland and Alpine. And so that's your next main kind of north-south road in American Fork. So because there aren't a ton of roads surrounding the city that way, like big main corridors, then that's definitely a con because they do get very busy, especially during the rush hour times. The neighborhoods are nice. They're pretty quiet. They're not that busy. But the big main roads, especially around that shopping district at that Pioneer Crossing exit, that can be very busy most of the day. Okay, so my next pro is Fox Hollow Golf Course. American Fork has a beautiful golf course called Fox Hollow Golf Course. It's been there a long time. It's kind of located down in, I'd say, in the river bottoms area. It is heavy. There's just a lot of beautiful trees, large mature trees that have been there for just dozens and dozens of years. The course is well manicured, very well taken care of, and it lives up to its namesake. I did a golf tournament there probably 7-8 years ago, and we literally had a fox come up to our golf cart. My golfing partner was crazy enough to hold out his hand and feed it from his hand. I don't know if I would have done that, but he did it. And so, yeah, it lives up to its name. There actually are foxes on that Fox Hollow Golf Course. I also played a tournament there just last month and just had a wonderful time on that course. Very fun to play. So that's definitely a jewel that American Fork has. They have their own public golf course, and it's very affordable. That's one of the great things about Utah's golfing is very affordable. So if you're looking for a good golfing opportunity, then American Fork's there for you, and they've got homes right near there. So if you're interested in that area or golf properties, reach out to me. I'd love to send you more information. And if you don't think it's a great golf course, then make a comment down in the comment section below and let me know what you think the best golf course in Utah is. But anyway, there's another pro for you, the Fox Hollow Golf Course in American Fork. The next con on my list is the weather, and this is definitely true for every city along the Wasatch Front. The weather in the wintertime can get very cold. We get snow here in Utah Valley, so you need to be prepared with a good snow shovel. I personally like to have a snowplow blade on my four-wheeler and push the snow around. It's easier on my back than using a snow shovel, but if you don't have a snowplow, then you better make sure that you have a snow shovel. Now, the good thing is we don't have tons of days where we have to shovel snow, but there's definitely, there's probably, I'd say 6, 7, 8 days out of the winter, typically, where you're going to want to have a good snow shovel or a snow plow. One of the other issues with the colder weather is Utah Valley can get inversions, and American Fork gets them too. That's where you have high pressures that hold in the cold air into the valley, which also traps all the pollution in the valley, and you can quite literally go a month without seeing the mountains, and you're right next to Mount Timpanogos. It generally takes a good storm to come through and blow that out of the area, so that's definitely one of the cons. That doesn't happen all the time. Generally, the weather's pretty darn good. On the flip side, the summers can be very hot. You can have a lot of days where it's right at or very near 100 degrees in the daytime, and it feels very warm. We don't have the humidity like the South has, so we don't deal with that, but we have more humidity than, say, like Phoenix or Las Vegas has, so it feels that 90 degrees, I think, feels comparable to 105 or 106 when you're down in Phoenix or Vegas. So, I mean, it can feel very hot. So there's one of my cons is the weather can be very hot for a few weeks in the summer, and it can be very cold in the winter. Springs are beautiful, fall's beautiful, most of summer is fantastic. I promised a couple of bonus pros for you. My first bonus pro is American Fork has a fantastic rec center. So they have fitness classes that you can go to. They've got a swimming pool that you can enjoy. There's also some baseball diamonds and places like that right next to it. The thing that I like most about it is in the wintertime, they actually put a bubble, like this big white bubble, over that rec center. and they keep the pool heated, and you can actually go swimming there in the wintertime. I've actually, believe it or not, I've actually competed in several triathlons. They call it the Icebreaker Triathlon. It's usually the first triathlon of the triathlon season, and it takes place in late March. They call it Icebreaker because, you know, here in Utah in late March, it still can be pretty cold. So it's kind of nice because you start the triathlon in the pool and swim in the pool, and then you hop out, and of course hop on your bike and do a nice loop through American Fork, up through Highland, back down to American Fork, and then you kind of do a similar loop for the 5K run. So that's just one of the bonuses to live in American Fork. You got a nice amenity of living in that as a citizen to be able to attend that American Fork Rec Center. Now, one of the other bonuses for people that live in that area, especially if you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is there's a temple, the American Fork Temple. Sometimes some people call it the Timpanogos Temple. I guess that's what it's called, the Mount Timpanogos Temple, but other people refer to it as American Fork Temple because it is located in American Fork. And so that's definitely a bonus for you if you live in that area and you're a member of the church. Then you've got a temple basically in your backyard, and you don't have to drive to Provo or anywhere else to attend the temple. And it's also a bonus for non-members because temples help keep up the values of the neighborhoods all around them. So there are two of my bonus pros for American Fork. So thank you so much for watching this video about the pros and cons of American Fork, Utah. I'm Scott Walters with Best USA Realty. I've lived in Utah Valley most of my life. In fact, I've been helping people buy, sell, and refinance homes in the Utah Valley area and the Provo area since 1993, and I'd love to help you. So I want you to subscribe to my channel. Click on that notification bell so that you get notified every time that I drop another video about living in Provo, Utah. Dropping weekly videos about Provo, Utah and all the surrounding cities. Today I happened to talk about American Fork. But again, reach out to me. Give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. We can make a Zoom appointment. I can talk to you by phone. I can get you whatever information you'd like to know about living in American Fork or Provo or all the cities around about. And I look forward to talking to you, and I'll catch you on the next video.